Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. Today we're joined by Toby Pickard, who is Head of Innovation and Futures at IGD. Hi Toby, how are you?
Hi Simon, I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
Good. Yeah, awesome. Really good today, thank you. And looking forward to this conversation because we're going to talk about retail store of the future. So we'll get our crystal balls out. We'll share our opinions, whether we're right or not. I'm sure we can reflect on in years to come. We'll get some stuff right, I'm sure, and some stuff we may be way off the mark. But nevertheless, always good to debate what the future looks like. So Toby, before we get into the detail, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, your kind of career biog, how you got to IGD, and then we'll find out a bit more about what IGD do?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Simon. Hi, everyone. My name's Toby Pickard. I head up IGD's research into innovations and futures. I've been at IGD for over 14 years now, focusing in sort of retail technology, innovations and sustainability during that time. So always looking at sort of quite large strategic themes that impact the food and grocery sector. So IGD, for those of you that aren't aware, is a food and grocery research organization. We're made up of two halves, a commercial insights team, which I sit on, and we run sort of large events for the industry, sort of from retailers to supplier events. And the money we make from our membership, because we're a membership organization, and our events and other commercial activities, we reinvest into the social impact side of the organization. And that money is used for helping the industry around things like sustainability, health, nutrition, and employability skills. So all the money we make, as I say, from our commercial insights is reinvested into the industry to improve the food and grocery sector.
Great. So doing lots of good work on both sides. It's really good to hear. So Toby, let's think about the retail store of the future. I'm sure we'll cover kind of Amazon Fresh Go, the Tesco store that's in Holborn and all the other things that are around a bit later. But if we maybe cast our minds past that, what tech, so specifically tech at this moment in time, what tech do you think those stores will have that maybe we're not familiar with or used to today?
I think we have to probably sort of, first of all, I know you said let's move beyond the Amazons and the Tesco's. I think we probably have to acknowledge that the majority of stores will still be operating around sort of improving the checkout in the future. So the examples with the Amazons and Tesco's are still quite niche. So what we really think is, the retail store of the future, one key area that they will focus on going forward will be around quicker, more contactless or cashierless checkout processes. And I think there will be an evolution of what we've seen with the likes of the Amazon and Tesco. So we may start seeing more examples with payment via facial recognition, for example, or biometric, so using your handprint, and ultimately about sort of trying to improve that checkout process and that sort of historic pain point for shoppers. And we may even start seeing more things like smart carts or smart shopping trolleys and even baskets. So obviously something like a smart cart is useful for a larger store format, but for a smaller convenience store, actually that's just too big, too clunky. So we may start seeing smart carts, which again, for a shopper and also a retailer and manufacturer, these can all be really beneficial, as from a shopper point of view, it can speed up the checkout. But also from a manufacturer or retailer point of view, you can start to get much better information and data about what shoppers are putting into their baskets in real time and how they're transitioning through stores, be it with a trolley or a basket. So I think checkout will still remain sort of a key area that retail will focus on enhancing via technology, be it, as I say, with biometric, smart carts, trolleys and mobile payments, to facial recognition and biometrics. I think another key area that we'll see is more usage of electronic shelf edge label technology. So sort of really helping bring products, promotions, nutritional information, dietary information to life at the shelf edge via electronic shelf edge labels. And I think we'll even start seeing retailers sort of slightly changing their business model where they can use these parts of the store to generate revenue as it becomes a new really marketing platform. And we're starting to see in the US some retailers using electronic shelf edge labels as a promotional tool. So actually they're getting smart enough now that if you stand in front of the shelf for a particular length of time, sort of that real moment of truth. And if you're not sort of purchasing the product, actually the electronic shelf edge label will deliver you a promotion to hopefully get you to sort of purchase that product. So the stores will get smarter in that respect. I think we'll see much more use of digital displays throughout the store. So large screens replacing your traditional sort of print signage. You may even see things like projectors, 3D holograms being used, and digital display technology to really engage the shopper around recipe ideas, health, nutrition, sustainability, all these sort of key topics that we know are important to shoppers and becoming more important. And then from a retailer point of view, we're already starting to see some retailers benefit from using digital displays. Just one example in the UK with Asda and a store that's using digital displays and electronic shelf edge labels. Already they're sort of saving enough paper by not printing out shelf edge labels that is equivalent to about 7 trees per year from that one store. So I think we'll see that sort of added bonus of tech enhancing the store for shoppers and retailers, but also having a virtuous sort of feedback loop around sustainability. Another key area that I think we'll see is more use of robotics in store. So this would be robotics to do inventory scanning, identify hazards and spills and slips. So really removing those sort of painful tasks, let's say, for store associates or store staff, and they can be replaced by either sort of large physical robots that move up and down the store, which we're seeing a bit in the US, or actually just cameras that are placed on digital on shelves so that actually store managers can manage stock of what's on shelf much better via sort of robotics and automation and AI. Another area that's not historically linked to the store as such, it's usually seen as an out-of-store activity, is sort of smart vending. So I think we'll start seeing much more sort of smart vending. This is sort of vending that can sort of really help bring personalization to the product choice for the shopper. So there's an example in the US with Walmart and a smart vending solution provider called Blendit, where you can create your own soft drink, your own smoothie. You can do it all on an app even before you get to the store, or you can do it at the store, and you can sort of create your own drink and really personalize that shopping experience. And we're even starting to see vending now being used for things like salad bowl dispensing, burritos, making for lunch meals. So there's things like that where, again, more automation in store to really bring that personalization. And then sort of a few sort of maybe, let's say, a bit further out, tech and ideas will be around things like using smartphones, shopper smartphones for augmented reality. So you can use your phone from wayfinders. So this would be maybe I've pre-populated my shopping list before I entered the store on my smart device. And then my mobile phone will direct me through the store to pick up those products as quickly and as easily as possible. But also, while I'm walking the store, I may even be delivered sort of personalized promotions and incentives and discounts. So really sort of helping sort of get products to jump off the shelf and into my basket, let's say. And then I think we'll see some of those technologies being used for store staff as well. So again, tech will be needed to isn't just beneficial for the shopper, but it's also beneficial for store staff, store associates. So store staff can use these kind of technologies to get notifications about replenishing shelves in store. And then maybe even through to things like how in store you might see more sort of voice activated technology, be it with sort of customer service stations where you can talk to a member of staff via an intercom in store. So these things are, again, all trying to help sort of build that sort of improved shopper experience. So I think there would be sort of, I think that's about 8 areas of technology I sort of just quickly rattled through there that I think will be sort of some of the key areas that we see tech being used in the store to sort of really help drive efficiencies, create sort of loyalty and personalization, and help retailers and manufacturers gather more information about how shoppers are shopping in store and what they're shopping for to hopefully create better products for shoppers and a better shopping experience.
Yeah, it's a really interesting list, and just circling back round on a few of those. So the kind of smart trolleys, the checkout piece, there's, as you say, lots of work being done by Tesco's, Amazon Go, and I'm sure lots of the other supermarkets are on the case in terms of this whole convenience, walk in and walk out. The whole piece around being able to really understand in a much clearer and real-time way where those customers are with maybe a smart trolley in a store for a larger shop, what that means in 5, 10, 15 minutes for the number of checkouts I need open, or self-checkouts, whatever that might be from a payment point of view, again, is some of the things that lots of these retailers have been working towards for the last 10, 15 years, but really gives them an unlock to make that final leg of the journey, if it's still a human interaction at the checkouts, which I think will always be there to some extent, a lot more pleasant than maybe a queue at peak. So I can see real advantages there. Yep. The electronic shelf edge piece is really interesting because you reference kind of Asda. We've done some work with some of the local co-op societies who have, again, been early adopters in the UK of electronic shelf edge labels. I think I remember seeing them in Portugal kind of 10, 15 years ago. We've struggled with cost of ownership, I think, in this country is the reality. But they're brilliant pieces of kit. There's a couple of key suppliers, but whichever one people go with, brilliant pieces of kit. Two, I think that the retailers are seeing, as you alluded to, kind of much bigger benefits from consistent pricing, promotional participation uptake, clearly workload reduction in store, and then all the sustainability, less paper being produced, less paper being thrown away in those retailers. But also things like stock availability. They're a lot smarter now than I ever realised, with potentially flashing different colours for stock check, or if it's on promotion or if it's out of stock. So really empowering colleagues to deliver the best for customers as well. I think people still think they're expensive, but my understanding at the moment is that cost of ownership is really, really dropping.
Yeah, and it's sort of similar with any tech, really, or most tech, isn't it? That initially technology starts off usually being pretty expensive, and then it does reduce over time just because of either economies of scales, efficiencies, and also we're seeing sort of new sort of leasing models that can help. And I suppose the other build around things like electronic shelf edge labels, where there's an advantage for the retailer, it can also be used to help in-store picking. So we're seeing electronic shelf edge labels that can sort of flash, so the in-store picker can pick much more efficiently because they're not having to sort of root out products as such. They're getting quite literally the shelf edge label is flashing to them to highlight the product they need to pick up, so they can become much more efficient. And obviously online shopping has a challenge around profitability. So one way of improving that profitability is by spending less time picking the shop. And actually, electronic shelf edge labels also offer that advantage. Along with another piece, I suppose, we didn't touch on, which is around product reviews. We get used to product reviews when we do online grocery shopping or online shopping as a whole. Well, actually, you can have in-store product reviews by customers via electronic shelf edge labels. And we are, as you said, we're starting to see more of the examples come to the UK. The UK probably has been a little bit slow compared to Europe. But we are even seeing them transitioning into sort of the discounter model as well.
Yeah, I think it is here to stay and will become more widespread as, again, the ownership and the tech evolves to the next generation. I think personalisation you touched on as well, that's been a big theme certainly in retail pre-pandemic and post, around personalising offers, content. You see things clearly in fashion now where you can have jeans personalised with logos or embroidery, trainers, football boots, and delivering that through automation, again, is interesting. Depends on, I suppose, how and the visuals and the aesthetics of it. But the other bit you talked about was kind of customer service points. I have a feel there may be this tension in a future retail world of outsourced versus in-store. So can you outsource service points? Can you outsource different points of that to a larger call center that has volume throughput? Because potentially we're going to end up in a world of maybe having, through tech, through cost pressures of national living wage, more highly paid, different skilled colleagues in retail than we are used to today.
Yeah, I think that seems very likely. I think sort of around that in-store experience versus be it you're sort of using an intercom or to speak to someone who actually could even be in the store. So it could be a store member of staff who they just have a headset on and they're actually on a checkout or also back of store or on the shop floor, they can still answer those questions. So you can still have that sort of in-store personal experience, or you could see it being outsourced to larger call centers. I think it'll be a bit similar to what we're seeing with checkout or checkoutless stores, where we're also starting to see a bit of this hybrid approach coming in. So for maybe larger stores, people still do want to go through that sort of traditional checkout process. To sort of go against what I'm saying around technology, we've even seen examples in Europe where they're introducing sort of slow lanes. So actually, if you want to go to the shop and actually have a chat to the cashier, you can do that. So I think often with technology, it's about appropriate technology and a technology that's relevant to the shopper. So what Amazon are doing, what Tesco are doing with their convenience stores on the high street in high footfall areas makes sense when it's about picking up food for lunch or tonight or maybe tomorrow. But maybe if you want to do a larger shop where you're taking a bit longer, maybe you do want to speak to someone and speak to someone who's in that store, who understands your personal preferences or your regional preferences. So sort of we already see it with certain stores will obviously put certain products into those stores depending on where they are located, because they know there's regional preferences around diet and taste. So I think that's where it'll be a bit of a blend, is our view.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And it kind of leads me on to, I suppose, two further questions in that vein. So do you think that retailers, if we kind of fast forward to this model where there's more automation, more personalization, more tech, a different maybe checkout experience, will they have to invest early on in educating customers into how that works? If I cast my mind back to self-checkout, when that was in its infancy, retailers put a huge amount of cost into manning those self-checkout points to educate, and that as tech's got better, as authorizing, age 25 checks and things have got more remote, it's less and less. So do you think there'll be that initial investment to educate customers?
Yeah, I completely. I think it has to be. We often hear sort of technology is intuitive, or certain technology like smartphones are intuitive, and I just don't think actually most technology is intuitive. Most people have to be taught. It's a new behavior, and any behavior change requires a form of sort of education. So I think there will always, if industry wants a technology to take off, you have to educate the shopper. You have to sort of show them the benefit of why they should use this technology. And I think actually we saw what Tesco did with their Holborn store was a great example of that. When you go to that store, they had a lot of store staff standing outside, really informing you how to sort of access the store, walking you through the app step by step, and really helping educate you so that actually when it comes to doing it again, you understand the process. So I always think when it comes to tech, majority of the time, a form of education is required. So be it a very simple sort of 3 to 5 step process that could be written on posters, which we've started to see more of with Scan and Goes and the likes, as people are getting more used to them. But when you introduce something completely new, I do think, industry would be wise to invest in educating. And currently that probably is best done by a store associate and someone who understands the technology, and most importantly, the advantage of the technology to the shopper.
And it's an interesting point for those retailers listening, because typically, having been there and done it, tech will go in, or a new process, there'll be a business case attached, which will typically drive cost out. There has to be a way of paying for that investment. And if it's not in property, it's normally in staff costs. But they'll need to be almost a softer benefit at the start, because you might need to retain some of that experience in those budget calculations for a period of time to educate, rather than just lands on day one, therefore we need less people on day 2. So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important for the retailers, as much as they invest in training up customers and shoppers, they need to invest in actually training up their own colleagues and store staff, because they're the ones that ultimately are going to have to continue to educate the shopper about what needs to be done to access these new technologies and solutions. And they're the guys at the front line ultimately that are going to have to be charging up the smart carts or smart trolleys to make sure there is enough batteries in them for them to work the next day, and therefore also sort of highlighting to those store staff what is the advantage to you of this technology. So with cashless or scan and go, the advantage can be that those store staff can actually get onto the shop floor and help educate shoppers around the products they're purchasing, making the shopping experience more enjoyable potentially, and ensuring that the right products are on shelf. So there definitely is an education for both the shopper and also a continued sort of education piece for store associates and store staff.
Yeah, and I think it plays into, again, all retailers will be thinking about and talking about what does the colleague of the future look like, what people are they recruiting for, how does that change their job profiles, are they more tech-enabled colleagues they're looking for in the future rather than replenishment colleagues in terms of putting stock out, is it a hybrid? So it all plays into this big melting pot of trying to predict the future, but also, as you say, how that impacts your customer, but also from a people point of view, expectations of the people, skills, attributes, future training plans. So it's all a big consideration as you try and predict the future, which is always a challenge in itself. So I suppose the bigger thing, Toby, is all this going to work? Have we got everyone, and we'll talk about Amazon again in a second, and Tesco's, everyone likes to tell us about success stories, but have we got any examples of where it's maybe not worked as well?
Yeah, I think with any technology, there's always going to be those that have maybe, in hindsight, you'd say you went a bit early, or maybe they didn't educate the shopper of the benefit enough to the point we were just talking about. And yeah, we've seen it in the UK with major retailers trying to introduce checkoutless stores. And actually, the store was only open for a number of months, so obviously it didn't work. We've seen some retailers venture into things like autonomous delivery in the UK and then back out. That said, they are now, for example, the likes of Tesco, they are trialing autonomous delivery. So this is robots delivering from store to people's homes via a third party, in this case, Starship Technologies. So they've tried some things, they don't always work, be it timing, be it lack of education or need. So there's things like you could argue, and we've heard it from a number of major CEOs, that sort of the likes of COVID actually has accelerated the digital transformation for both online but also in the physical store, helping accelerate things like the checkout process as people want to get in and out of stores quickly. So yeah, as much as there's been I've focused on a number of sort of examples where we are seeing the technology currently working. The likes of Walmart, for example, in the US, they stopped using robots in store for inventory management. But then there's others retailers in the US who are now rolling them out to all of their stores. So I think it's one of those cases of what's relevant, what works, and the crux there really is for retail and the industry to continuously monitoring the technology they're using to ensure that it's delivering the benefits that they want and the benefits the shopper needs and wants.
Yeah, and I'm a massive advocate of trying stuff and tweaking it and morphing it, and actually accepting that part of the path to success is failure. So if you try something like those examples you've given and it doesn't work, being able to back out quickly, not keep pushing it if all the indicators are saying it doesn't work. So hats off to those guys for trying it and pulling away. And as you say, for some of them, it's led to longer term success in the same area.
Yeah, and I think that's often the case with tech. It's sort of think big, start small, and yeah, you have to be able to sort of pivot pretty quickly, and also consider where you're trialing these technologies. So are you trialing them in relevant areas? So what is it, as we're saying, around the Amazon and Tesco shoppers, from a convenience style sort of shop, what is it that you're looking for? Well, most people shop convenience stores within sort of 4 to 5 minutes from our shopper research. So actually, can you make that even quicker? That could be a benefit. And that's why we may start seeing more checkoutless stores where actually if you go for your big weekly shop, you probably want to ensure, or you want all the products you're looking for to be on shelf and available. And that's where technologies like robotics or camera vision, weight scales can all be beneficial to ensure the right products in the right place for the shopper.
So let's talk about the success then. And clearly we've got over here, is it Amazon Fresh? I think Amazon Go in the States, and the Tesco example in Holborn. So they got a lot of press. I've been to both. I suppose as a consumer, I don't know what I expected. Slightly underwhelmed, I suppose, but that's probably what they wanted because it worked. You try and break the system. You pick something up, put it down, pick something up, put it down somewhere else, and guess what? You walk out and you then get an email and you get charged for exactly what you bought. So it all sounds good as a shopper. It worked absolutely, did what it said on the tin. What have you seen?
Yeah, similar. So it was nice to be able to trial both of those stores in the UK. I've been writing about and reviewing these stores and other unmanned stores or unstaffed stores since 2016. In the case of both the Amazon Fresh or Amazon Go in the US, as they call it, and the Tesco Get Go examples, they're not unstaffed stores. So I think the first big call out for me would be the fact that there are a number of store staff within both stores. One of the, I think the Amazon I visited, one of them that I visited was a few months after it opened, and there wasn't as many staff as there were at the Amazon that I went to that had just opened. Again, that plays back to what we were talking about onboarding shoppers. But that said, there were still as many store staff as in my local convenience store where I live. So it wasn't this sort of staffless experience that's often reported. And I think, we will continue to see staff in store because of things like people do want to have a human interaction at time. So that was, something that for me stood out. And also there's also age restricted products. So, they had to have a member of staff verifying for tobacco, alcohol consumption, or pharmaceuticals, such as like headache pills and the likes, where you can only take a couple of packets. So yeah, the number of staff was probably one of my sort of something that was a bit surprising. The ease of it, yeah, same as you. I think sort of the speed of receiving the receipt on leaving the Tesco store was very impressive. That within minutes of leaving the store, I'd had my receipt sent through to me. And actually, in both stores, sort of, it was very much a normal, convenient store shopping experience, with sort of the benefits of things like food to go. So at both stores, like at Amazon and the Tesco, I could get hot drinks to go, and that was all done via Just Walk Out or Get Go technology with Tesco and Trigo.
Yeah, I think the thing probably that stood out for me was I call it the onboarding. So in Amazon, it was around in your Amazon app, assuming you've got it and you've got an account, finding the tab at the top and scanning the QR code to get in. Tesco's slightly different, a bit more complex with having the app and then enabling some tick or slider in the app to enable you to then shop in the store. So I hope that gets simpler as this gets more prevalent, that there's not a big kind of onboarding piece, because clearly that's time hungry and time consuming. But as you say, everything else really smooth. I thought the Amazon store was interesting because they had the digital shelf edge labels as well, and certainly lots of the chillers that push forward when it's out of stock, so it shows that they recognise it's out of stock and they're on the case. Clearly the coffee machines and the kind of food to go bakery piece. So I think those offers will evolve, and clearly they're for a market of convenient shop and go lunchtime in maybe both cases. Be interesting, based on the start of our conversation, how you lift that and take that into a much bigger environment for my weekly shop, where maybe there's more services. So foreign currency, you've got kind of maybe restaurants in there, or wider, bigger coffee shops. So I think proving the concept still, I can really see how it works in those high population in and out areas. So London, great example, city centres. Let's see how it transpires into our wider shopping is kind of where my thoughts are at the moment.
Well, I think Amazon have clearly stated that they will be, they have already in the US put it into one of their larger Amazon Fresh stores, and they are going to be rolling it out to Whole Foods, Amazon Whole Foods Market in the US next year. So their aspiration is very much that this can be applied across a smaller convenience style store and also a supermarket size store. So I think what we'll see is that element of a number of other retailers probably trialing a bit of a hybrid approach. be it sort of moving into the larger store, but you can still shop your traditional way of shopping, be it through checkout or scan and go or via your mobile phone, or you can do sort of just sort of walk in, walk out. And we've seen some of these hybrid approaches already coming into the market in Asia. And I suspect we'll see similar approaches in Western markets or more retailers in Europe and North America, sort of, again, blending the two.
Yeah, and Whole Foods would be an interesting case study because clearly there's, for those that haven't been, good product range. Again, they've had the kind of call points and things in lots of those stores, but lots of counters, so deli counter, yep, meat counter, hot food, to-go counter, and then the complications of weighing scales, fresh juices. So again, I suppose it helps them prove the concept in that environment as well and fine-tune the model. So that'll be a really interesting one to watch as that all comes into play.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. They are definitely creating more complications, but also I suppose as the AI, the technology gets smarter, they should be able to sort of iron out those challenges and complications. And to your point, as you said, sort of the products you picked up, and when you walked out the store, your bill was correct, your receipt was correct. So I think it will be a really interesting one to watch, and also then see, will other retailers take this solution into larger store formats, or will we see stores sort of become a bit more segregated? So maybe you walk into a supermarket or a hypermarket and one part of the store is more of a sort of a just walk out approach, and the other part of the store is more sort of your traditional, as they start to roll the technology through their estates.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, listen, Toby, it's been really pleasurable, enjoyable casting our minds forward. Sometimes we spend too much time looking backwards, so this one's great to look forward. I'm sure we're on the mark with some stuff. I'm sure we're way off the mark with others, but that's the beauty of looking into the future. Final question from me is, what's the best bit of business advice you've ever been given?
Best bit of business advice I haven't been given. I think when it sort of comes down to sort of technology, I think it's a case of it's about the appropriate using appropriate technology, and also technology that has sort of low capex and high return. So it's actually, how can retailers use tech that is multifunctional or can be built upon with software upgrades? And I think that's where some of the challenges we may have had with things like robotics or cameras is they become quite one-dimensional. As they start coming smarter and better, and they can offer more solutions, they become more beneficial from a capex point of view. So ultimately, food and grocery is a sort of high volume, small margins gain. So you can't invest loads of money in tech. So the money you do invest needs to be beneficial and have a return on investment that's relatively short.
Thanks again, Toby. It's been an absolute pleasure. If people want to pick up with you and find out more about IGD, where's the best place for them to find you?
You can find me on IGD's website, or go to LinkedIn, Toby Pickard, LinkedIn, and also follow me on Twitter. Really enjoyed today, Simon. Thank you so much, and I look forward to maybe coming back and reflecting in the next sort of 12 to 18 months on what we said today, to see what's come true and what's still maybe work in progress, and some of the things we may have missed or may have missed. But thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. We'll catch up soon.